will be discussing the workability issues and disadvantages towards abolishing or even lowering the minimum wage. Let's start with workability. First, if you lower or abolish the minimum wage, you're not just affecting the minimum wage, you're affecting other fields like welfare. The Milwaukee Times did a study, and they explained how most poor families can move back and forth between welfare, and if you're abolishing or reducing their main source of income, which is a low-wage job, they're going to have to rely on welfare more. So if you do this, you're going to make it much harder to get off welfare and obtain a steady job. Another workability issue, as explained in the Milwaukee Sentinel, is how it's more difficult to keep hiring and training new lower paid workers than to keep experienced ones. And this ties in with how there will effectively be less people hired just because it's not worth training them for a lower wage. It's better just to keep the people you already have, or perhaps hire just a few more even if they are cheaper to pay. But it won't do much to help the unemployment rate. Not to mention, lowering wages won't do anything beneficial for those already employed. It's simply lowering their own wages. It's creating more competition. It increases the chance that they could be fired and replaced. Several disadvantages of lowering or abolishing the minimum wage include just directly affecting the people who are on the minimum wage. There are 4.4 million people who earn wages at or below the federal minimum currently. That's 1 in 5 American adults. And if you lower the minimum wage, you're lowering most likely their only source of income. And this is detrimental to them because one of the issues is the housing market. The housing market has been eroding away in 24 states at least. And nearly 1 in 4 working households spend more than half of its income on housing costs alone. That's an even higher rate than just those who make the minimum wage. So if you abolish the minimum wage, you're making it much harder for people just to afford things like housing, let alone the rest of the things they need. When put into practice, lowering the minimum wage did not decrease unemployment. Our economy has only fallen further. Salaries are decreasing still, but the unemployment rate is still rising in states like Colorado. And that was from an editorial from the Los Angeles Times. And again, going back to how hard it is to obtain necessities, lowering the wage will make it hard to pay for things like housing, car insurance, gas, everything we need, because you're just simply not being paid more, not being paid what you used to. It also hurts those who obtain a tipped minimum wage. It's lower than the federal minimum wage, with the idea that the tips that people like waiters obtain will make up for it. But people aren't tipping as much in this economy as it is, so lowering that wage along with the federal minimum wage will hurt those people even more, and they're already in such a difficult situation. The minimum wage currently does not hurt business, according to thinkprocess.org. At least 5 different academic studies focused on the minimum wage, and they found that simply an increase or keeping the minimum wage has no effect on employment levels, so reducing it is not going to help that. It doesn't kill jobs either, having this minimum wage, so lowering the minimum wage will not create any more jobs. It was conducted in states with an unemployment rate of above 8%, and the study showed that the minimum wage has not destroyed any jobs, it's not created any jobs, and this is because the wage costs are countered by the changing demand. So when those two shift, it doesn't make any difference. So in conclusion, there are several reasons as to why lowering the minimum wage just will not work, as it'll be more difficult to gain jobs, and will hurt things like welfare, so you're not simply affecting the minimum wage. And the disadvantages include affecting and hurting the 4.4 million who are already on the minimum wage, and how it will not reduce unemployment or create more jobs.